Hey, what's up? What the flick? We got Bibbs, Meredith. We're gonna be talking Twin Peaks Part 11.
This week, a bunch of weird stuff happened. Goodbye.
No, it was an action-packed episode.
There was a lot.
There was a lot.
This is a really dense one, actually, for Twin Peaks, especially.
Yeah, I almost thought we didn't get a Dougie.
Yeah. There's like, oh, you thought we'd leave out the
nope.
David Lynch's being there? No. Sometimes I wonder if being there is getting in the way of this like cop show.
Yeah.
Or if the cop show and like home stripe stuff is getting in the way of being there. I honestly don't even know anymore. He's wearing me down to the point where he could literally show me anything, and I'm like, it's probably brilliant. I don't know.
It's David Lynch. It's good. So we start off. Miriam, she kind of made it out.
It looks like she's not okay, but she's alive.
I know. I'm thinking she lost an eye. It looked like there was an empty eye socket. She's beaten and bloodied.
Yeah.
But I thought the trailer was going to go boom, and we never had that boom moment because he put the gas on, and I thought struck a match, but
Good point. I guess he's not very good at that.
Nah, he's a bad guy, but not very good at being bad.
Meanwhile, Amanda Seyfried is having a moment.
Just a bit.
She is freaking out, and she calls her mom in to borrow the car, and she ends up poor Major Namek. She's just like sliding up this car, and that's her daughter. And it's so insane. And she's got a gun, and it turns out her husband is sleeping with Alicia Vitt, who is Donna's sister.
Oh, that's where it is. Okay,
she was only
wondering.
like 1 or 2 episodes in the original show, but
she was
Donna's little sister. Yeah. She played the piano in that one bit, and now she's just fooling around on Shelley's daughter's band
with the abusive boyfriend. That's the thing. I give David Lynch a lot of garbage for like how tropey and stereotypy and how like dismissive he can be of women characters, but with not Shelley, the daughters, Becky.
Yeah.
With Becky's whole scene, I'm like, that's an abusive relationship right down to the T, where especially once Bobby and Shelley intervene, and it's kind of like, oh, I love him, but I want out. But no, but he's just going through. I'm like, good on you, Lynch. Like, that was really well done. Even some of we think about the way Shelley was on the hood of the car, and that was like a little extreme, but
it's really extreme.
But if you're involved in drugs and an abusive relationship where that person has completely like worn you down, you become crazy.
Well, and also if you're a parent of a child who's going through this, I mean, it's easy to say on the outside, well, just abandon your child.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, maybe there's part of you that wants to, maybe some people can, but it's not easy if you love your kids.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting is that when we see Shelley and Bobby and Becky in that diner having their conversation with their daughter, it seems like, okay, we're turning a corner, we're laying down boundaries, you gotta do this, we're not gonna let you do this, this is okay. And then Shelley just abandons everything to your boyfriend, who, as we've seen in previous episodes, is also an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like Shelley's making. It's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
What's interesting is that the scene ends with this extended sequence of Bobby actually being a cop and being a pretty good cop. Actually acting responsibly, trying to maintain a sense of calm, taking care of everybody in a really harrowing situation. Child shot a gun through a window. There's someone panicking and having some sort of seizure behind them. And yet also in that conversation where they're talking about abusive boyfriends or at the very least boyfriends and husbands who are enmeshed in horrible things, when we first saw Bobby, he might not have been abusive, but he was an asshole.
Yeah, he was definitely an asshole.
He was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
He was a murderer. He was committing insurance fraud with Shelley. It's not great.
No.
Now, granted, it seems like he's grown up a bit, but there's still this. One thing that's kind of great about Twin Peaks is that all the facades are facades.
Yeah.
And there's always something going on underneath, and everyone's usually trying their best, but their best quite often isn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed in that scene Bobby was the only good person in the room. Now, let's backtrack a little bit to the seizure pea soup scene.
Yes.
So Bobby, goes, there's a bullet strikes through the glass at the diner at the double R, and my immediate thought was like, oh, someone's trying to take Becky out. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then Bobby goes on and just
Alicia Vitt with a gun.
Yeah,
taking my man.
No. And it was another little evil child. That boy was not. That was a devil child.
That was the eyes of a killer. Yep. And there was this really nice little juxtaposition moment where he sees the boy, and then he sees the father, and they're dressed exactly the same.
Yeah.
The father's being irresponsible with a weapon. The boy's being irresponsible with a weapon. It's subtle storytelling that tells a very distinct story with a very distinct message, I think.
Yes.
And
then it gets weird.
And then it gets weird.
It's really weird. Super weird.
I don't know if that's important. Probably not. Like one thing that's kind of interesting is that David Lynch always manages to diffuse the more commonplace scenes.
Yeah.
You'd see like, oh, there's some sort of incident. The cops have to be cops. Okay, we'll add something weird. Okay, Hawk and Sheriff Truman are having a really weird conversation about all the mythology. Hey, you want to see my new car?
No. Like, no, we really don't. No.
Tomorrow?
No.
I guess you seem nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's that going on. Meanwhile, Matthew Lillard is taken to the scene of the dimension. So this scene gets weird.
Yes.
So they go to this place where Matthew Lillard says he went to another dimension and saw the Major. And David Lynch manages to see the other dimension, which is full of the weird shaggy men.
The woodsmen, or is what was it he called them?
I think the bearded men.
Yeah, the bearded men. God, it was. Okay. So first off, I want to compliment. I got to jump out here and compliment the sound design on this. David Lynch did the sound design this episode. And this is the first time I actually watched the credits, so maybe he doesn't.
I think he usually does the sound design.
But this was so good because as his character is walking into that void, you hear static, and I think, oh, maybe that's in his hearing aid. But then I'm like, well, maybe it's just around. And I just want to say how much I love the sound design in this episode. It really brought that whole scene together for me. Yeah. Before you see the vortex in the air, and
well, he's really good at juxtaposition, as I mentioned before. And here we have this really intense moment of him seeing outside of reality, but then he's very, very clever at cutting back to a whimsical image of what it looks like to the outside observer.
Yeah.
We also have the rather unfortunate death of Matthew Lillard, who gets scanners like off screen, which is a weird amount of restraint actually for this show. You'd think they would have enjoyed it.
I know.
Because they're really enjoying the violence in this season.
That's a special effect that it would have been hard to do practically, and they really do rely on a lot of practical effects or editing effects here.
I noticed they use a lot of like CGI blood.
Yeah.
And obviously like they didn't. It looks like they didn't build like a dummy for his corpse. They clearly CG'd that. It looked pretty good.
It was good.
But so I guess that subplot's over.
Oh yeah, and then Diane sees this. Let's be real. Diane does see the bearded man going into the car, and then it takes her like several scenes later. Like, I think I saw something. Like, what are you up to, Diane? What are you doing?
Diane, stop. Whatever you're doing.
I know, but it was good.
We want to like you. You were very nice a long time ago.
No, she was nice to Coop.
She was super nice to Coop.
Sorry. I was gonna say, and then they find Ruth's body.
That's right, with coordinates on her arm, which you can see in a later scene, Diane trying to memorize. Not being super subtle about it, by the way. Diane, like, at first it seemed like, she's a stealth agent for Killer Bob. And now it's like, maybe she's not very good at this and we were just being unobservant.
No, and I think Lynch knows Albert might be onto it, and I think they're bringing her along now, so they plan on following Diane back to Bob.
I think so. I think it's probably that. So Hawk has a living map of Twin Peaks. Okay.
That's amazing.
I'm
not surprised.
The conversation for me that's very Lynchian is, what's that fire? Oh, that's not fire.
Yeah.
That's a fire symbol. Yes.
Yes, something.
It means not
burning.
fire.
It's good though, and we got another log lady scene.
Always really, really great.
So good.
We got black fire is going to be super important later.
Referenced twice.
Yeah. I mean, look, we know they're going to have to go back in the woods. We know they have to go back in the lodge eventually.
Yeah. Well, and we did get to see a bit back into the lodge. So we get our Dougie. Finally. And
finally, Dougie.
I'm not gonna lie, there's a moment that I'm like, maybe they're just gonna kill Dougie and we're gonna have to see another Coop clone emerge at some point.
Well, okay, think about this. When Killer Bob died, there was all those guys converged on him and they pulled Garmin Boucher out of him and it was crazy. But is that what happens if Dougie dies?
I don't know. Or does he just spit pea soup?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
But that was that scene in the desert, which with the Mitchum brothers, was one of probably the best like twists and takes on the desert scene from Seven. The what's in the box? Because like
but it's
not even just the box, but like you have two men, you have an unarmed man with a box. It just ends up better in Dale's case. But that was a beautiful like Lynch. Thank you. Seven's one of my favorite movies all time. So anytime there's a good Seven reference, that was well done.
Yeah.
But there was no head. There was just apple pie.
Look,
cherry pie. Excuse me, cherry pie.
Dougie can do no wrong. He's like Forrest Gump. He just blusters into a situation, and then the world is a better place afterwards. So he comes in and he buys, and like that's a huge box for a pie.
I know.
Was that the only box they had? My God. Like it's such a weird thing. So he buys the pie because the one-armed man told him to.
Come buy the pie.
And they can't kill him. And it's just, then he eats the pie.
Yeah.
And you think this is gonna be it. He's gonna eat pie. And this is gonna be the thing. I think David Lynch knows we're waiting for Dale to come back. And I think he knows we're waiting for a trigger. And I think it's gotta happen, I think, maybe. I'd be surprised if it didn't happen at all.
Or just not.
I suppose
David Lynch. It could never happen.
He doesn't like not care about narrative. He just takes his sweet time and he'll do it his own way. And I think we're getting answers to like all the questions. Just maybe the answers aren't what we wanted.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna get there. But I'm wondering if you recall in the original series.
Yeah.
One of the lines in the dream that he had in the Red Room was the gun you like is gonna come back in style. How does that pay off? Someone just fucking says it.
Yeah, that's
like
it.
just before they reveal the killer. I think that's what it's gonna be. There's gonna be something that is gonna trigger the return of Dale. It's not coffee.
No, it's not pie.
It's not pie.
I feel like
what is it Diane?
It's either gonna be Diane or he gets back with like Hawk and the crew, because like that's the other thing is like, you know, we're used to Dougie, we're used to Dale being with Truman and Hawk,
right?
You know, his people. Now, of course, we have a different Truman now, Truman brother, and we have Hawk. Like, I wonder if that moment of them coming together, all eating pie, drinking coffee, and eating donuts all together, and Diane somehow on a phone, and then suddenly it's all gonna merge.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm just wondering if it's just gonna be something like, or maybe it's the return of Audrey.
Oh,
I mean, that would be kind of cool. We're still waiting for Audrey. Come on, where is Audrey?
Well, and also we know Laura's coming back in some way. It's been prophesized. She is the, well, I don't know. I mean, like
theoretically.
But yeah, I do think like it's going to be Audrey or it's going to be Laura or it's going to be both because they're the big figures here.
Yeah. Does anyone else, when you're watching the opening credits for the new Twin Peaks and you burst through the clouds and you see Laura's face, does anyone else ever just want to sing The Simpsons?
No, but that's
every time.
Now I'm going to every time I see that.
It's like this weird Simpsons Twin Peaks reference, which I haven't done in a while.
They didn't end at the Roadhouse.
They didn't, but we did end with a musical performance. I actually had to check. I was like, is that Angela Badalamenti? Turns out no.
Yeah, so the last song they played was an instrumental on the piano, and it sounded really familiar. And the credits just credit as heartbreaking and the performer, but something about it like is sitting in the back of my head. Like I recognize it, but maybe I don't. I asked Twitterverse, and people were just be able to like it sounded like this or that, but maybe you guys in the YouTube comments can let me know because it's driving me nuts because I really like that piano.
There's a couple of things that it evokes.
Yeah,
there's a couple of like old show tunes or sad Cole Porter songs that it reminds me of, but then it takes a hard right.
Exactly.
And that might be the point of the composition. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, but it was well done. Again, like I said, the sound design stood out to me this episode, and I love it. It was a good episode. It's a very good episode.
It's a good episode. It's an eventful episode.
Better. It keeps getting like at first, the first 4 episodes, I don't know, guys, and I'm like, no, I'm really invested in this.
Well, yeah, I mean but I think that's the beauty of David Lynch is that he tells you a story and he takes you on that story in a very unusual way.
Yeah.
And you sort of kind of fall backwards into it rather than lean forward.
That's a really good observation.
Thank you.
No, I mean that is exactly it.
Usually you're just like, and here you just got to ease into it and it'll happen. And it's fascinating. I think it's very captivating. I still think it's going to be really honking weird one day to watch all of season 1, all of season 2, and then all of season 3.
And then throw Fire Walk with Me in there.
It kind of fits though if you think about it because season 1 and season 2, at least after the first couple episodes of season 2, are jarringly different in tone. And season 3 is the same way. And Fire Walk With Me is the same way.
It's true.
So maybe every season of Twin Peaks has got to be sort of dynamically different from the last.
Yeah. Well, no, 7 more episodes.
7 more episodes.
7 more.
And who the hell knows? I'm wondering if we'll get Dale back in the last minute.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I seriously would not be surprised at all at this point. It's just going to be like one less thing. Oh, hey, Dale's back. Credits.
Yay.
Damn it.
And on that note.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for watching our latest review of Twin Peaks. We'll be back next week. Alonzo Duralde should be back next week, so we're very excited about that.
And credits.